YouTube, what is up? It is your boy Reese from Pokernomix. We're back with episode 5 of the vlog. We are calling this one Steaming Redemption. Now, we're calling it that because this has all the elements you need to a good poker vlog. Big hands, big spots, bad bluffs, tilts, rebuy. I want to thank everyone that has joined up on the channel, liked, commented, subscribed so far. Please, if you have not, take a moment to do that. We've had some great traction after our 4th vlog, the high stakes. We're back now playing in our weekly home game. It's a 1-2 uncapped game, but don't let the blinds fool you. Often we're doing 10 and 20 restraddles. Not uncommon for guys to go off for 3, 4, 5, 10 grand in this game. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel. Let's go to the fill. So we get to the game. It's Friday night, 7:30. They've been playing about half an hour. Biggest stack's about $1,000. We're gonna buy in, match the stack, see if we can't run this up. Our first playable hand of the session, about 20 minutes in, we look down at ace queen offsuit on the big blind. The under the gun player is going to open for 15. He's gonna get 2 callers. The small blind's gonna fold, and I'm going to call. We've got $61 in the pot when we take a flop that comes out queen high. Looking good for us. We want to check. We're out of position, see what develops in this hand. So we check, at which point the pre-flop better is going to c-bet to 35 on the flop. He is going to get immediately raised by seat 9 to 115. It folds around to me. I've got top pair, queen deuce 4 board with 2 diamonds. Not looking the prettiest. Seat 9, he's going to become a factor in this episode, and I want you guys to note that because we play some hands with him later. Traditionally, this guy's a very tight player. When he's raising, he's got the goods. It's early on in the session. We don't want to punt as we've just sat down. And so we're going to just let this one go. We fold. Pre-flop better is going to call that raise to 115. They take a turn card. It is a 3rd diamond. Flush draw makes. They both check. River comes out a 4th diamond. They both check again. And the pre-flop aggressor is going to table queens up, queen 4 suited. That is the winning hand. No telling what seat 9 had. People, it looks like it's going to be a good session tonight at the game. Okay, so our next hand, we are under the gun. We're going to straddle for 10, and we look down at the spicy 10-8 suited. We're going to get some action up front. Early position is going to open to 35. Middle position player going to immediately make it 115, and a player in late position in the cutoff is going to flat. Comes back around. In this game, straddle gets ultimate last action pre-flop, so we actually get to act last. The initial pre-flop raiser's going to flat that raise to 115, and comes back to me, so I'll be the 4th one in this pot. These guys play wild. Hands are all over the place, and I'm looking to do some damage early on in this session. So we're gonna flat. It is 4 to a flop, 460 in the pot, and the flop comes out 10-5-4 with 2 clubs. Got top pair. I believe we have a backdoor hard draw as well. Now we're in a weird spot because we're out of position in a multi-way pot, flatted a 3-bet pre-flop, and in this particular situation, the player that 3-bet pre-flop has a super wide range and got another player with wide range behind him to flat. And then obviously me with my insane range. We're all over the place. So unsure of what to do. Want to put out some sort of bet, a little bit of a defensive bet. See if we can't drag this pot in right here if we're just fading some big aces, right? So 460 in the pot. We lead out for 210 on this flop. To our surprise, it's going to go around and our pre-flop better and raiser are both going to fold, and our player on the cutoff folds, and we drag this pot. Not too terribly long after that last hand, we're in the hijack. We look down at 2 red kings. Fortunately, in this pot, there was no straddle pre-flop, just 1-2 blinds. We're going to open for 20. We end up getting 2 callers, and we take a flop, pot $61 or so. That flop's going to come out jack 6 deuce rainbow. Dream flop for 2 kings. The early position players are going to check. Comes around to me. I want to play this one a little sneaky. You want to get value on later streets in this hand, and I know if I show weakness here, I know if I show weakness, the player in early position is going to lead out on the turn. It's in his nature. He's wanting to check raise this flop every time. I'm just going to get him to lead a couple streets and raise for very thin value. I think I'm good when we get to the river. So ultimately, that's what I do. I check the flop. He falls for my bait. He does lead out on the turn. Turn comes an 8 of spades. He leads out for 55. We're just going to flat at this point. River comes out a 3 of spades. So we got a jack 6 deuce rainbow board with running 8-3 of spades on the turn river. It looks pretty clean. Nice run out for an overpair. He bets 105 on the river. This is where we're going to go for a little thin value raise. We min raise to 210, and it comes back around to him. He 10 tanks and hems and haws and says, do you have a straight? Do you have a set? Blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, he folds. He says he has Jack 10 off. This is a good player that was looking to get value. Saw that he was beat, just let the hand go, and we were able to drag a nice little pot. Our next hand, couple of orbits later, I'm in the low jack. I look down at ace 8 offsuit. We're in the double straddle as well for 20 bucks. It's gonna fold around. We get one caller in late position. The blinds and the single $10 straddle are both gonna call. Option to me, we're gonna check, take $100, flop 5 ways. It's gonna come out ace 8 9 with 2 hearts, top and bottom pair, strong hand, somewhat of a wet board, few draws on. We want to get value out of this hand and hopefully hold, right? Make sure that flush doesn't come. Early position players are gonna check to me. I bet 75 at this flop. I get one caller, the gentleman behind me in late position. This is a dangerous player. He's a good player and knows how to blow people off of hands and really play power poker. And so his flat is something I'm paying attention to. The other players are gonna fold, so now we've got a $350 pot going to the turn. Turn is a brick. I try to get sneaky here and check raise him. Unfortunately, he checks back. The river comes a brick as well. Now it's time to get value. I bet 300 into that pot of 350 and he folds. He must have had some kind of draw, no ace that he could call with, and we drag this pot. Quick stack update for those keeping score at home. We got about 1,300 bucks at this point, an hour and a half into the session. Let's get back to the film. 3 hands later, we find ourselves on the button. We're gonna put the $10 straddle out, see if we can't build up a pot. Early position's gonna call that $10, middle position's gonna call as well. Action skips me on the button. Small blind is going to fold, big blind calls the 10. Option to me on the straddle, I pop it for 50 more. Naturally, of course, we get 3 callers, so we're 4-way to a flop, 241 bucks in that pot, and that flop comes king 6-4 with 2 diamonds. Not the best looking board, but we've represented some strength pre-flop. We're gonna try to steal this on the flop. Action checks around to us. We bet 175 and very quickly get called by the player in the big blind. He flats that 175 and almost equally as quickly, the player in seat 9 here is going to pop it to 480. We've got our hand caught in the cookie jar here. This is not the first time this has happened to me, and we're gonna posture for a minute. Him and Ha, we eventually fold. The big blind's gonna fold as well, and seat 9's gonna drag this pot. Nice hand. Now this next hand is when this session starts to go a little bit off the rails, people. Let me fill you in on the pre-flop action. I did not get all of this recorded, and then we'll take the action to the flop here. So it's a 1-2-10 straddle hand. We're in the low jack. Action folds around to us. We pop it. We make it 35 to go. Folds around to the button. The button, seat 9. Guy's been giving me trouble the last few weeks, opening up his game, 3-betting a lot more than he has in the past. He's gonna 3-bet me once again here to 115. Folds back around to me. We're gonna flat this and see if we can't just catch lightning on a bottle in this flop. 243 bucks in this pot. We hit a flop of Jack 5-4 with 1 diamond. Top pair, no kicker, obviously. Backdoor diamond draw, backdoor straight draw. We wanna see where he's at. If he was 3-betting us with a big ace, we wanna check. We're out of position, just try to keep some pot control going here and reevaluate on later streets. So we check the flop, and he's gonna check behind us here. That surprised me with him 3-betting. I've now isolated his range, 2 big aces and pairs under that jack. That seems pretty sensible to me. Turn comes out a 10 of diamonds, and we check again. He bets 175 at this point, and we snap, go all in on him. I'm trying to break off ace king, ace queen, maybe that turned a diamond draw, pairs that just took an aggressive line on the turn. I think I'm good here. I think I'm good with top pair when we check the flop. I've turned the diamond, redraw if he's got anything janky, if he does have an overpair. I think maybe like possible 2 queens, I guess, and he tanks. When he tanks this long, I know I'm in trouble. This is not good. He has a legitimate hand. He's not wanting to go broke here. My check raise was about 560 bucks for him, so he's committed a decent portion of his stack. He tanks for 3 minutes. I ask him if he has queens. He looks me dead in the eye and says basically calls and flips over 2 aces. He won this pot fair and square, slow played me on that flop. Checking that flop got him the check raise on the turn. So he drags a $1,600 pot and we draw back a nub. After doubling up seat 9 in that last hand, we're down to just a couple $100 left. Play a few more hands, couple of raised pots. We're just getting nowhere, folding. Now we've got $100 left or our 1K buy-in. We're gonna need to run this up, double up, rebuy something. We do not fare well with a short stack. We find ourselves in the double straddle. We just want to punt if we get any kind of face card. We look down, we got an ace 3 offsuit. You had me at ace. We put that remaining $80 in. We get 1 person to fold out. We get 2 callers. We got $320 in the pot. I'm all in between the out of position player and the player behind me in late position. That flop is going to come out ace-7-9 with 2 spades, and that out of position player is going to bet 200 on this flop. And I'm all in, so we've got a side pot brewing here. The late position player is going to call
call. And I'm just thinking I'm toast at this point. Turn comes out, it's a jack of hearts. The out of position player's gonna bet 275. The player behind me thinks about it for a moment and folds the ace 8. Had an ace with better kicker. And river comes out, a king. I'm thinking I'm just done here. And the player in the out of position spot to my right, I show him the ace. It's good for the main pot. And we're gonna drag that $320 main pot. He's gonna scoop the side, and it's gonna be time to run this little stack up. Now we're on a mission, ladies and gentlemen. We just tripled up on that last hand. Couple of decent hands, and we should have a playable stack here. So yeah, we're leaning into the action. We're under the gun this hand. We're going to straddle for 10. We get a caller in early position, and 2 players in late position are going to call as well. Comes back around to me, I check. There's $43 in the pot. That flop is gonna come out 4, queen, 3, all spades. I'm out of position. I'm gonna check. Early position checks, and we get 2 checks behind us. Turn comes out an ace. We turn aces up, looking like we should be good at this point, wanting to squeeze some value. We're gonna basically lead out for a pot size bet on the turn. We bet 50. Early position's going to call us pretty quickly. Other 2 players fold out. There is $143 in this pot now. River comes out, it's a 10. I think this board looks pretty clean for me to bet aces up. I lean into it for the rest of my stack. It's about 250 bucks. He snap calls and had flopped the nut flush and just got paid all the way down there. We're stacked. It is now time to reload. We're about 3 hours into this session at this point. Game is getting deep, hands are being played, and I'm gonna lean into this action. We're gonna reload for 2K, see what we can do. So a few hands have passed. We're on the button now, trying to recenter ourselves and focus on the rest of this session. Plenty of poker to be played. We don't want to blast off and start tilting, punting our buy-ins. That would not be a good thing. Nevertheless, we're on the button, we're straddling here. $10 to go. Under the gun, we're going to get a open to 25. I'm gonna caller in early position, and the big blind's gonna call. Comes around to me, I'm gonna call that $15 raise. We've got 101 bucks in the pot, and we take a flop of king 8 deuce with 2 hearts. We're on the button, the big blind's going to check. The pre-flop aggressor is going to bet 55 at this flop. Middle position folds, we call, the big blind folds, we're heads up, going to a turn card. Turn comes a 3 of diamonds. There's an all red board, double flush draw, and the pre-flop aggressor is going to continue his betting, leading out for 150 on the turn here. Yeah, I was speculating on the flop, trying to, reevaluate on later streets. At this point, I think, man, this guy's just gotta have me beat for him to fire off a second barrel post-flop. Very likely he's got a better hand than me. I could be totally smoked here. I'm just gonna let it go. And I fold. And he very happily shows me the ace queen of hearts for a stout semi-bluff that got through. That'll become important here in a minute when we play future hands with this gentleman. He's just been owning me tonight. Back-to-back hands. I've got crushed. On to the next one. Good hand. Now remember what I said about not trying to blast off and tilt here. The very next hand, we're in the hijack. We look down at 2 10s. It's a $10 straddle. Again, the only caller of the straddle is the low jack. He calls the 10. I raise to 50. He calls and the straddle folds. So we're heads up in a $113 pot, and we take a flop of 4-7-8 rainbow. Now I should note, he checked in the dark on this flop. Got an overpair. We fire off 100, and he just so casually hammers this to 300. Now this is a weird spot. This is a player with a super wide range, one of the widest ranges in this group that we play with. He could have me drawing dead. He could have a set. He could have bottom 2 pair, just have me in really bad shape. And so we think about it for a while. There's no just flats and reevaluating. If I'm going to play this, I got to shove or I got to fold, let it go and pick a better spot. And given this board, this player's range, the dynamics of the session right now, he has me covered. I had just bought in for 2K before this. I probably have about 1800 to start this hand. Ultimately, we asked, hey man, I'm going to fold. Let me see. And he does table the top 2 pair there. He was good. And despite being a little tilted and a little frustrated, it is good to see that we can still make a little fold here and move on to the next hand. The next hand we play is about 4 hands later. Seat 9's on the button. This is bomb pot, dealer's choice. All sorts of games are being played. 5 card Omaha, high low, 55, 4 card 45, all these crazy poker games. Some of them I've never heard before. Nevertheless, this time the button decides we're going to play a $25 bomb pot PLO. It's going to be 8-handed. We're all going to put in 25 and we're going to take it to a flop, except we're going to get a double board. So there's going to be 2 flops, 2 turns, 2 rivers. That pot is then basically halved, and the best hand on the top board is going to get half the pot. Best hand on the bottom board will get half of that pot. So no pre-flop action. We squeeze off the ace, ace, queen, 5 with a suit here. We've got spades. We've got the queen and the 5 for some straight equity on that ace as well. And we take a couple of flops. Those flops come out ace, 9, 9 with 2 clubs. Ace is full on the top board, and the second board is just as interesting, if not more. 6, 7, 8 of clubs. However, the 9 of clubs is on the first board, blocking that straight flush, or at least the top end. $200 in the pot, and we are in late position. Seat 2 leads right out and pots this for $200. That can come around to us, and we just go all in. At this point, we have, I think it was about $650 more on top of that. He calls and shows me quad 9s. He had flopped quad 9s here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm toast on that board, dead to an ace. That's the board I thought I was ahead on, right? So this is really bad. Even worse for me, the rest of his hand has a 7 and a king in it. The second board runs out a king, and now he has kings up on the second board. He's got me beat there. Lo and behold, the river comes out on both boards. The river counterfeits his 2 pair on that second board. Our aces and 8s beat his kings and 7s, so we're able to chop this pot and even make a little bit of money. But man, you want to talk about getting sent off into the tilt stratosphere. This would have put me into orbit, and we all joke about it. We drag the pot and we move on to the next hand. Our next spot happens 3 or 4 hands after getting bluffed out of that last pot. We look down, we're in the double straddle. We find ourselves with the 10-6 offsuit. Seat 9 again opens for 75. He gets 2 callers before the action comes around to me. We call, it's 4-handed, 310 in the pot. Flop comes out Jack 6-5. I check, he's going to bet 200 on this flop. Players between us both fold. Comes back around to me. I'm out of position. I do want to take a turn card. I'm thinking he's got an overpair, queens, kings, and we want to see if we can peel him off. We call that 200 and we turn the miracle 6. Looking for value here. We check, thinking he's going to fire off again if he does have that overpair, and we can get it in with really good equity on this turn. And he checks back. At this point, there's a little over $700 in the pot. River comes at an innocuous 4. At this point, we want to get value. We've got about $800 behind. We just jam, thinking that we'll get called by the overpair here. And before those words leave our mouth, he snap calls and flips over pocket jacks. Flopped a set of jacks, bet it, turned the full house, checked, kind of froze us up there, and got paid. Played the hand well, and this dude has just beat me up in the last series of hands. Got me to overplay a hand 2 hands ago, bluffed me that last hand, and this one he's just stomping me in. So we are a little tilted. Got to take a break before we reload here. That was a nice hand. So it's about 4.5, 5 hours into the session at this point. Stacks are deep. Players are going nowhere. This is a good game. We're gonna take one more stab at this. We're gonna reload for 2K, and we are going to swing for the fences. A couple of orbits have passed. We've calmed ourselves down, trying to get off tilt, and we're in late position. We're in the low jack, look down at 2 red aces. This is a $5 straddled hand. It's 1-2-5. Got a couple of limpers here. We try to get funky and play creatively. Just limp this and see if we can't check raise pre-flop or on later streets. And nevertheless, no one bites, and we take a flop 6 ways. Not the best thing to be doing with aces. That's a pro tip for anyone watching out there. Do not do this. Oh man. So anyway, the flop comes out Queen 7-4 rainbow. We get an early position player in seat 2. He leads out for 25. Middle position player calls. We pop it to 115 in position. He's gonna call. The middle position player folds. Pot is somewhere around 325, $340 at this point. The turn comes a queen of clubs. We had a rainbow flop. This puts a club flush draw on there. Early position player checks to me, taking over aggression in this hand. I bet 225. He calls, but he calls with only 500 in his stack. Just got about 275 behind. River comes a 4 of clubs. Backdoor flush gets there. It also is a board pair. This is a good player that I'm up against. I've played with him for well over 10 years, maybe closer to 15 years now. It's a consistently winning player. Good guy. He's not just punting the last bit of his buy-in in this spot, but curiosity got the best of me. Thought I had a good hand, thought I had some showdown value. I call that 275, and he flips over the 6-8 of clubs, flopped the straight draw, turned the flush draw, owned me on the river. We're gonna have to move on to another hand. This is an interesting hand where we look down at Jack 8 suited on the button. We've got the $5 straddle out there. Early position player is gonna make it 15 to go pre-flop. We get 4 callers. We look down, we call as well. 6 players to the flop, $90 in the pot, and we get a Jack 7 flop. This is where this hand gets a little funky. The hijack is going to bet out 50 on this flop. Player in between us, the cutoff is going to call, and of course I call. Turn comes to 3 of diamonds. I turn a backdoor diamond draw. Obviously, with that bet and the call on the flop, I am concerned about someone having trips with a better kicker, right? Or the under full, maybe 7's full or something like that. That diamond gives me a little bit of hope though. Hijack's going to check this time. The cutoff bets, we call. The hijack's going to fold out. The river comes a king of clubs. The cutoff is going to bet out 250. I don't even know, guys. guys, tell me in the comments what you think about this. I don't know if this is a bluff catcher at this point or not. This player to my right is a very capable player. He's one of the most dangerous players in this game, and he has historically owned me. We begrudgingly call the 250 bet on the river, and he tables a jack 9. He's got us pipped by one card, and this guy always owns me. This one was brutal. Our next spot happens about one orbit later. We look down at the queen deuce of diamonds in the cutoff. We've got the $10 straddle on this hand. It's an early position under the gun. So it's 1, 2, 10, an early position caller of that 10. The hijack is gonna call, and then we're gonna pop it to 30 here. Both the early position and the hijack call, ultimately the straddle calls the $20 raise. We've got 4 people to a flop, $120 pot, and that flop comes out 9 deuce tray with 2 hearts. Action checks around to me. I'm going to bet 65 bucks here, trying to build a pot in position, smack trips or a backdoor flush, something, and actually pick up 2 callers here. Turn comes an ace of diamonds, early position checks. The hijack is a very crafty player, comfortable betting scare cards. He leads for 225. This does not scare me. We've got about, I don't know, 1,300 to start the hand. We're deep enough that if we peel one off here, we should be able to get paid. So we flat that 225, early position folds, and the river comes out a miracle deuce of spades. Absolutely well disguised trips. He's never gonna put us on this hand, and he leads out. Hijack bets 800 on this river. We only have 1050 at this point. We raise 250 more, and the opponent bluffing, not able to call that little raise at the end. I'm able to table the queen of diamonds only and really lean into that maniac table image that I built. Quick stack update for those of you keeping track at home. After that $2,600 pot, we play a couple more hands, drag a small pot. We're sitting on 2,700 bucks right now in the game for 5K. Hey, if we double up, we'll be winner, right? Our next playable spot happens just a few hands later. We look down at ace king in middle position. We've got the 10 and the $20 restraddle on in this hand. We are first to act. We make it 100 to go. We get 2 callers behind us, and both the straddle and the double straddle call. We have a $500 pot. We are taking a flop, which comes out deuce deuce tray with 2 spades. Now, the first to act pre-flop is the double straddle. He's a new guy to our game, not very familiar with his play, but he leads out for 150 bucks into this flop, thinking he's representing a middle pair, mid pair, 8s, 9s, somewhere like that, betting for value, somewhat defensively. Not really sure where we're at, but I've got to peel off at least one street. I do have the ace of spades in my hand as well. So I call, thinking that the players behind me are disinterested in this hand and that they are folding out. Lo and behold, they both call as well. Now we have an $1,100 pot. The turn comes a third deuce. Checks all the way around, and the river, of course, rips out an ace. Now, this gentleman, after betting the flop, checking the turn, rips 500 on the river. Check out my opponents behind me. They look genuinely disinterested at this point. I'm thinking that they're done with the hand, and I'm sitting here with the absolute bluff catcher. I have to think to myself, did he really lead out with trips on this flop and then just kind of freeze up when he turn quads? More likely than not, I'm thinking when he's leading out on the river here after betting flop and checking turn, did he really flop 3s full and just is taking me to value town? But ultimately, I have to call. I'm just too curious. I have to see. So I call that $500 bet. He flips over the ace deuce of clubs, head flop trips, turn quads, and got the miracle river for me to pay him off. He's going to drag a $2,100 pot here. We lost that one fair and square. Nice hand. This is the hand of the night, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the 10 and the $20 restraddle on. We're in the 10. Early position player makes it 85 to go. The big blind calls. We peep down at our hand, find 2 aces in our straddle. We're obviously going to 3-bet here. We make it 380 to go, causing the early position better to fold. The big blind, he's a stubborn, good player. He gets a little sticky with his hand and he calls. We're heads up to a flop. There's $866 in the pot. That flop comes out king 6-4 with 2 clubs. He checks to me. I've got 1,320 bucks left in my stack. I overbet it. I just shove, and he calls pretty quickly. He could have any kind of combination of hands and suited connectors here. He does flip over the 4 of hearts. The board runs out a 4-liner to a straight and a backdoor heart draw. He never shows his other card, likely had 4-3 off or 4 deuce, something like that. Was really trying to stack me, but we drag a $3,500 pot. Do not call this a comeback, baby. The next hand took place off camera. I had actually taken my phone down to hook it up to a power brick. I'm on the straddle, on the buttons, $10. I look down at the Jack 4 offsuit. We've got 1 caller in middle position pre-flop. The small blind folds, the big blind blind calls. I check, 31 bucks in the pot, and the flop comes out Jack 6-9. The big blind goes to bet 25 here, and the player in middle position between us throws out a single chip. We think it's a call. He then specifies, wait, I was trying to raise, gets ruled a call as a single chip rule, and that allows us to call and speculate as well. The turn now comes a jack, so we rip trips on the turn. We're thinking we're out kicked at this point. We're gonna have to get lucky on the river. Early position checks, that middle position player bets 125, and we call. The early position player, the big blind, folds. River comes out, the miracle last jack. We've got a trout line here, and the player's gonna lead out for 280. This is the same dude that had quads on me earlier and got paid off. Now I have quads. How do I get the most value possible out of having quads in this spot? Ultimately, we decide a decent sized raise will do the trick. He's got a couple thousand in front of him. We make it 1,000 on top. He thinks for a moment. Eventually, he makes the crying call. He flips over 6-9 offsuit. He had flopped bottom 2 pair, just got counterfeited and kept firing off. He actually told me I bet the river, telling myself I would fold if you raised. He didn't. We drag a $2,900 pot, and we are digging out here. Stack update at this point, we are sitting around 4,800. We're in for 5K. Things are heating up. Quick break from the felt so that Jeff can tell his neighbor this bad beat story. Folks, if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Approximately 2 orbits later, we find ourselves on the button. We make it a $10 straddle and look down at the 7-3 of spades. An early position player had opened for 35 and gotten 2 callers. The action comes around to us. We call that additional 25. We've got $140 in the pot. And that flop comes out 7-3 deuce with a spade. How often do you flop top 2 with 7 tray, right? The action's gonna check around to us on this flop. We're gonna bet this top 2 pair here. We bet 75 and get 1 caller. The turn comes a 9 of spades, giving us a flush draw to go with this. And the gentleman just flatted us on the flop is gonna lead out here for 175. Really weird kind of check raisey play. It's a tight player, conservative player, and I'm just trying to raise for value at this point with such a strong hand. 2 pair and a flush draw have got to be good. I raised to 400, essentially a min raise at this point. He's going to tank for about a minute, maybe 90 seconds, and ultimately folds, and we show him the goods. We're deep into the session. It's starting to wind down when we look down in the cutoff and find 2 kings. In this hand, the early position player had opened for 25. New player in middle position, 3-bet to 125. We decided it's the end of the session. We're deep. We want to play this a little sneakily. We've been playing very aggressive all night, so we just flat the 3-bet. The early position pre-flop raiser flats as well. We take 3 people to a flop with $378 in the pot. That flop comes out Jack 5-4 with 2 spades. Early position checks. The new guy's gonna bet 150 in middle possession here. We're gonna flat, early position folds. The turn makes the flush. The 3rd spade comes, it's the 7 of spades, and he jams all in for about 500 bucks remaining. We make the call. He flips over 2 queens with the queen of spades. Just an absolute dream spot. Just a cooler hand, had him crushed, and we drag a $1,600 pot. We regroup after that hand, do a quick stack check. We're sitting at about 6,500 bucks at this point, up 1,500 from our 5K buy-in. Now this session is all but over, folks. We decide to end on a bomb pot. The dealer decides we're going to play a double board Congress bomb pot. So 5 card, high-low, double board with a $15 ante. 6 people decide to play, $90 in the pot. We peel off the ace, ace, king, queen, 9 with a suit, which is a monster 5 card PLO, but for high-low, we have no low draw equity there. It's gonna need miracle boards for this to make sense to get committed in this hand. So we go straight to 2 boards. The first board comes out 10 Jack 4 rainbow. We flop huge wrap on this one. The second board comes out 6-3 deuce with 2 spades. Obviously airballing there. There are 6 of us, and the flop checks all the way around. The turn comes out a queen on the first board and a 7 of diamonds on the second board. We actually turn the nut flush draw on the low board there. On the turn, the player out of position is gonna bet 75. I call, and 2 other players call as well. We have some opportunities to 3-quarter this pot. If a diamond hits that second board, we can really clip this field with the nuts on one board and the nuts on the other. Have somebody call off with a low on that other board. Let's go. River comes out. It is a brick on the top board and the board pairs on the second board there. So we have 6-3 deuce 7 deuce. Make nothing there, and the player out of position pots it for 500. I am stuck between him and 2 other players. This is a place where you can easily get chopped up, quartered, and so forth. And with an exclusive nut hand, there's one story to be made, but with just ace king, a Broadway kind of nut hand in this spot on double board, just not a good spot for me to be calling. This is a losing play. I have to let it go. I fold here and we wrap up this session. We're wiped at this point. This has been a wild session. We get some racks, count up our chips, say our goodbyes, and we are out the door.
All right, I'll admit that was not the prettiest win, but we got the job done, right? A decent little win here, good hourly for this session. Coming off a win last week, actually won $5,000, so helping rebuild the bankroll after our little high stakes swing from the last vlog. I really enjoyed playing with this group of guys. Nobody's taking it too seriously. It's a good group of friends. I got a good steady set of regulars there. We can just kind of riff, make fun of each other, just kind of unwind at the end of the week. So really enjoying becoming part of this game. I hope you guys enjoy this wild content that I'm able to film from it. So let me know what you thought about the spots that we took in this session. Please subscribe if you haven't. I do want to take a moment to thank everyone that checked out our fourth vlog. We did have a huge uptick in traction and subscribers and views and everything as that one got out. Guys, we've got an editor on deck now. We're working with industry leaders that are helping coach me on the back end to make sure I'm giving you guys the best content as possible. I want to know what you think. On that fourth episode, the biggest feedback comment I got was about the ace king hand where I folded to the 4-bet. You know, after reflecting, I knew it then, I knew it afterwards, and trust me, after everyone has told me, I really know it now. That is a 5-bet shove all day, every day, and you just have to have the wherewithal to do that there, the bankroll, and the mentality to know that that's the spot with the blinds where they're at. Just shove, you know, and get it in there. So I want to thank everybody for giving me their feedback. You can bet your butt the next time I come play high stakes, I will come correct. We'll be much more comfortable at those stakes. Until then, we're gonna be playing some mid-range, some 10-25, 25-50s. We'll do some streams at TCH Live here soon. And we're gonna be getting back to Omaha too. So stay tuned, more Omaha to come, and let me know what kind of content you guys wanna see, kind of sessions. I wanna give you guys the best content. I wanna build our subscriber base here. Hope y'all are enjoying it. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week for episode 6. Later.